Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Let's Chat Live. I'm your host, Chris Revel. We are going to be joined today in just a minute or so with the wonderful Dan Kozuh, who was a past guest on Let's Chat with Chris Revel. Go check out that episode. That was a ton of fun. Dan has a wonderful new podcast called The Extramundane with Max Ward. We're definitely going to hit him up about that. Maybe you know Dan from some of his writing from the Hard Times. I share their stuff way too much. Just a quick announcement. This, I believe, will be our first episode that within the next day or two, you can find this on our Let's Chat with Chris Revel feed. Working with Jason, a.k.a. The Vern, from Cinema Recall on this, so huge shout out to him. And what our new plan will be is you could be able to get all of our back Let's Chat Live episodes and all of our Let's Chat Presents, like the punk rock documentary, filmmaker roundtable, our Marvel panel, all that stuff. We're going to take all that audio and we're going to put that into our Patreon, which is just patreon.com/Let's Chat Media. No one wants to hear me. We're here for Dan. So let's just get right to it and bring him on.
Hey, that's right. You're here for me. It's all about me tonight.
Absolutely. Coming in with almost looking a little bit like Mike Reese, which I'm game. You're the only person I know I could say that to who knows exactly what I mean too.
Yeah, this is, I usually don't keep hairstyles for very long, but I shaved it because of COVID, because I wasn't getting a haircut. And then a couple months ago, I'm like, all right, time to start growing my hair back in. And it was coming in gray. And I'm like, I am not ready to deal with this in my life. So I kept shaving it because I'm not ready to confront that.
I like it. I went the other way. I was like, let's just start kind of in gray. I was like, got really into like the new wave of pop punk. I just was like, pop punk blue, and that's kind of turned into this.
I like it. It works.
Yeah. Well, like I see the person, our friend Laura, my wife, who's my wife does my wife's hair. And my wife's a hair person. I started seeing Laura, and then like she's really fun to talk to. I was like, I don't know, if I dye my hair, I can talk to you for another hour. Okay.
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever met a barber that I enjoyed talking to.
Me neither. I've never ever enjoyed my haircut until I met Laura.
The one time, and it must have been in college or something, like I had like in high school and stuff, like bleached and dyed my hair like crazy and stuff. And I'm like, I'm actually gonna do it right this time. I'm gonna go somewhere and get it like, I want a bright fire truck red, just as angry red as I can get it.
I want to do it.
And so I did. Well, I spent even like God knows how much money on like a professional haircut that I've never paid that much money for. Washed it the first time pink, instantly pink, and I I kept it though. I wore pink for a little while, and then ended up shaving it. So,
anyone just checking in? This is Haircuts with Dan and Chris. I'm so proud of us.
I'd love to talk haircuts I've had a lot of bad haircuts.
Like I mentioned in our brief intro, you were kind enough. You were on our podcast. I think it was last year around this time, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Pre-COVID, maybe. I don't know.
It must have been because it was when my book came out, so which was about 2 years ago, actually. So it was after it was released. So yeah, probably about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, about a year and a half. I remember for Lingaria, book 1 of 1.
Yeah,
I then re-gifted to my father-in-law downstairs, and he has it in his office, so I see it every day.
Oh,
he really liked it.
Everybody buy it and give it to your father-in-law. That's the best.
He's a big sci-fi guy.
Best gift.
And I think, and now quote me, I'm gonna just take credit for it, but I'm pretty sure I like to think in our episode or somewhere down the line, I must have told you that you should start a podcast. It feels like something I would do. So I would like to take all the credit for this.
Yeah. So we actually, I'd like to say we became friends after. Like I think we reached out because to be on the show, but we've interacted a lot offline.
Yeah, like I would say, if someone asked, I'd say we're internet friends.
Yes,
which to
exactly.
me is better than my actual real friends at this point in my life.
It's been a year. Everybody's our internet friend now.
No, I know it's kind of the nice thing where like now like my parents or other people like understand, like it's not weird to have so many online friends. I'm like, yeah, that's what I've been doing this whole time.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I just been always just talking to my producer and business partner that would Bree, like we've never met in person, but
wow,
we met, like we have a checking account together in an LLC. Isn't that weird? I know.
Wow, yeah.
But like,
yeah, I consider some of the Hard Times people some of my closest friends now, and I've never met any Hard Times person in real life. I don't think so. Yeah,
it's unlikely. Yeah, because there's no chance for us all to be in the same room yet, which I'm sure we will at some point. But tell us about the Extramundane with Max Ward, which I was actually listening to it today and like really digging it. And
thank you.
I kind of hate paranormal stuff, like just reflexively. That world. I just like,
right.
It's actually really funny.
Well, that's what I'm going for, hopefully. So, The Extramundane with Max Ward is a podcast. If anybody remembers, Coast to Coast AM was a talk show that was on the radio in like the 90s. Art Bell was kind of the spearhead. It's still on, but it's basically a talk show about paranormal, aliens, ghosts, demons, Bigfoot, anything in that kind of realm. And so I wanted to do a podcast, and I came up with the idea of doing, it's sort of a mix of Coast to Coast AM and Comedy Bang Bang. So I play Max Ward, the host of The Extramundane, and I bring on people to talk about and interview them about the paranormal, but instead of just having like ghost hunters and Bigfoot experts, I actually wanted to have Bigfoot on and have ghosts come on and aliens. And so I have improv comedians come on, and I basically just like harass them with questions. And it's completely improvised. I know going into it, usually just the name, what character they're going to play. And other than that, I don't know anything else what they have planned. And so yeah, it's completely improvised for about an hour. Episodes come out every other week. And yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, when it's like start a podcast, you found one that's like kind of hard to make.
What do you mean hard? Like,
not in a bad way. Just it like listen to it, like, oh my god, this sounds like time consuming. Like you gotta find someone who actually knows comedy and like. But I think it definitely shows in that sense. But like it's so funny from getting to know you a little bit. Like I'm like, oh my god, this is the most you podcast that would come out of it, because it's like
no, that's a good thing or not.
I'm gonna quote something you posted. It was one of those memes of all like the different people in high school and the bands they listen to, and you're like, there's no table for Weird Al and Slayer fans,
right?
And
right.
Like yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, that was totally me in high school. And so like I feel like this is like totally this is the podcast that only you would make in the best possible way.
Thank you. Yeah, I loved the paranormal stuff since I was a kid, but I never took it too seriously. And so I think that's why this really worked for me. And I didn't, because I wanted to do a podcast. Writing takes a long time, and the fruit of writing isn't always right there. And podcasting, I don't want to say it doesn't take a lot of effort, because it takes a lot of effort. But what I like about improv is it's instantaneous. Yeah. You have to be in the moment. You can't rewrite. You can't rethink it. And I really wanted to get back into that. I haven't done improv in a long time, and so yeah, this is actually really outside my comfort zone, because I really like hiding behind a computer and hiding behind words. Yeah, it's funny. You're like known for a writer, and I'm like, now, like like you could instead of just doing like a interview show, you're like, let's comedy up. Yeah, obviously, we have the comedy writing background, but it's funny too. Like I'm sure if you ever had this experience, but like I've met comedy writers who are just not funny at all. Like I consider myself one of them. Like I'm really a straight man as Max Ward. If I had to be funny, all I have to do is mold the funny and point like kind of rein in the comedians. But I'm really just playing it as a straight man, which I think is the best way for me to go, because I don't consider myself funny in person particularly. My stuff is a little bit more. I need the time to kind of think about the jokes and sculpt them a little bit. Thinky comedy. I didn't want to say cerebral. It's not thinky comedy. I'm dumb, so I move slower than. But it's coming back. The cobwebs are being kind of wiped off my improv chops, and I'm getting a little more comfortable just believing in something. That's so awesome, man. So, I know we've talked about this. I was joking before I was going to play a game where I was going to pull up a bunch of different Hard Times articles and be like, which one did you write? Because you're like one of the go-to writers I always find on that. But like, you've been doing Hard Time, like you've been writing a boatload simultaneously. Yeah. I actually just started backing off the Hard Times. I was their metal czar for a little while, where I kind of curated their metal content and helped with that. But I left really on good terms, and I still write for them occasionally, but I really needed to focus on my own stuff. But yeah, I have my book, and then I recently had a short story published in Infinite Worlds magazine, which is a sci-fi magazine. Congrats! Oh, thank you. So yeah, I was really excited about that. But yeah, so I'm trying to kind of do more of my own personal writing than writing for other people. And this podcast was also part of that. I really wanted to kind of focus on myself and be selfish for a little while. I mean, you put in many of years into the Hard Times, and Hard Times has definitely spawned some fruits from that labor. So I think it's only a matter of time that you take what you built off of that and kind of move forward with it. And then, I mean, from the few people I've had any interaction with who had some ties to Hard Times, everyone's always seems pretty nice and cool. And like, I've yet to hear too many bad stories. Yeah, and I'm the king of if I don't like a situation, I will leave it. I will not bother with how my career might fall if I'm in a shitty situation with people.
Same.
And that's why I stuck with Hard Times for so long, because the writers are awesome, the editors are awesome. It was really a great experience. Especially, I didn't really get into comedy writing until Hard Times, and so it was really like, and now I was 35 by then, so I really didn't get into comedy until late, because I wanted to be like a serious filmmaker, and so but really I've always had a passion for comedy. It was always there. I just didn't believe in myself, and B, I didn't think it was like worth it, and it was so stupid. I just took myself too seriously.
What do you think was the shift when you started to believe in yourself? I know those words sound so silly to some people, but like I feel like I've kind of had that too. Like I love therapy, but like and I never understood those terms, but like it's things that we all do to some people personality types like myself will do, where it's like self-sabotage or like,
oh, absolutely, yeah,
stop yourself or just not even try. Like just like legitimately just not even try. I know I've had I did Let's Chat is going to turn 8 this year. And for the first like 6 years, it was literally just a hobby. And like now I look back and I remember like some opportunities and like people would say nice things and whatever. And every compliment I got for the first like set up until maybe like last year would immediately deflect. Nope.
Yep. Absolutely. And I'm still, yeah.
Still, yeah. Like, nope. Yeah, exactly. I remember like Stephen Smith, who from I remember him. People might remember him from Fuse with Stephen Untitled Rock Show. Then I love this podcast, Going Off Track. Like he was a huge inspiration, like hosting style. Like I really always like really looked up to him. And years ago, I got to interview him, and afterwards we were talking. He complimented me, which meant the fucking world.
Wow, of course, yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you're really good at this." And the media's like, no, he says everybody. And
yep. And that's the thing. I've always, I still struggle with it, and that's that. I still a really hard time believing in myself.
Do you remember? I called you the John Schwartzwelder of the Hard Times, and I'm pretty sure you screamed a little bit.
Yeah.
I still stand by that statement.
I just think it means you think I'm going to become a reclusive gun nut and
that's exactly
never talk to anybody again. So
well,
that's really fine with me. Yeah.
That's
but
exactly
I really the Hard Times actually did build my confidence a lot. And a lot of people say like you don't need the validation, you just believe it. Like no, but validation is the most wonderful thing in the world. Yeah,
if you're listening to this, people, leave a comment and validate us because we need it. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, desperately. I still really struggle with it, and so and I still wait for like, and that's the thing is like I consider like I wait for my book to be like. Everybody has seemed to really like my book, but I really still struggle with like, because that's all me. Like Hard Times, I put less pressure on myself because I'm like, it's theirs. Like they can do with it what they want after I send it to them. And actually that lack of pressure that I put on myself is actually how I succeeded, because I didn't care as much. And when it's my stuff, I overthink it and put too much pressure on myself for it. Oh, thank God. Dwight Hurst, everyone.
That's speaking of people I've never met in real life, Dwight is actually, I guess we're partners now too. Dwight and Bree and I are going to be producing a podcast called oh my God, Dwight, why am I forgetting his name? I should know this. I'm going to be getting paid money to produce this. Oh my God. Oh, Sullen Jones, the 1929. Sullen Jones is the uncle of George Floyd, of the late George Floyd.
Oh.
So, but I met Dwight on Twitter years ago. Same thing. We've just become internet friends for the last 7 or 8 years, and now we're going to be starting producing together. And it's just like we live in different parts of the country. We've never met, and yeah, imposter syndrome. I'm glad. I like hearing that everyone has imposter syndrome. Like when someone like you like is complimenting you, it's like, you're wrong.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, I actually one thing I did, probably my most successful thing with the Hard Times. I don't want to give too but I created a separate group for Hard Times writers who were, I'm like, I was just going through a really hard time with imposter syndrome and just a hard time in life in general. And so I created a side group for writers to kind of join in and just bitch and just like that stuff you don't want to sort of admit, like imposter syndrome and how hard you like just failure is in the creative field, how hard you're pushing and not like, and I'm like, there's just no, like, there's nowhere for people to kind of scream into the void together for this. And so I put it together, and it's probably my most successful thing coming out of Hard Times was like a group for 100 people to just scream about how frustrating it is to
I love
to work
that.
in the arts. And yeah, it's always something I still want to make bigger. Like this is sort of private for the Hard Times writers, but I want like a bigger one for artists to come and just we're almost ashamed to admit how hard this is, and how much we like. Yeah, and failure, like failure and rejection is a big part of this business, and having people kind of be like, yeah, you're right, and it's really hard is good to have around.
I'm still mesmerized by people who do this without having like a day job. Like I like to become one of those people.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
But it's just still like I'm like, what? Huh? How you what? And like it's incredible. It's yeah, I get it. Like I know it's hard. Hot take, folks. Art's hard. It's like the cursing song.
Comedy is like because comedy they like, and there's always the joke about the people, the clown, like the sadness of the clown or whatever, and but yeah, comedy is really rough to admit. Like for, I mean, you're hot for maybe if you're really lucky, you're hot for a decade. Like of your and that's really successful comedians are hot for a decade and then are kind of forgotten about. Like
yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like there's so many like, I mean, Louis was the guy, and then he got dethroned, rightfully so.
Right.
Amy Schumer was like the it for a while, and then.
But remember, what's his name? I almost said David Tell, but it's not David Tell.
Chappelle?
No. He'd do like arenas. Like, why am I blanking on his name? He was in Louis' show for like he was like the bro. Like he had the like
Doug Stanhope.
No, bigger. What is that guy's name?
I don't remember.
Dane Cook.
Oh, Dane.
He owned the world of stand-up
Yes.
comedy for 5 years.
Easy.
Like, and then where's like he probably still tours. He probably still has fans, but I mean,
yeah. And then I think his brother stole like millions and millions of dollars from him.
But yeah. So anyway, comedy sucks, and I don't know why I do it.
I don't know about you if you do this with the Extramundane with Max Ward, but like I'm a huge Larry Sanders show, but like for years I felt like Let's Chat, like my podcast was my own little mental talk show prison that was like my little like only I tortured myself over this thing that nobody really cared about at all for a very long time.
And I'm in that spot right now where I'm like when I was 20 and I had a movie idea or TV show idea, like I wrote, like I pound it out and write it and blah 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 and do it, like get it out there, not get it out there. But that's the thing is I have all these screenplays like unmade and stuff like that. And now that I'm almost 40, it's like I like think of a really good idea and I'm like, now I have these weird things like, do I want to put the time in for this when it probably won't be produced? Do I want to put the effort into this, like to this story that 3 people will read? Like, and it sucks to say that because you want to be just, I make art, I don't care who sees it. Well, like, and that's how you are in your 20s. But when you get older and everything's a fight, you really have to pick and choose what you're gonna do, and that sucks because some of you probably could miss out on some really great things.
Oh my god, no, you're 100% right. It's just there's so many hours in the day, and then just like, oh god, in like a perfect world, I would just get paid to do this all day, and then have everything else covered for me, like all the production and all the promotion, all that piece. Like, just want to show up, but like it just not feasible at this point in life, probably ever. Hopefully one day, but I feel you.
When will people like? Because people say like you'll never consider yourself successful. Like you have to like the thing that you're doing now and not like. But if I would consider like if I could do this for my day job, then I would consider like not famous, maybe not, probably not even make a whole lot of money, but enough to survive.
Yeah,
I would consider myself successful, and I'm really stubborn.
Yeah, I guess it is always that funny thing. Wherever you go, there you are. Because I know, like, if I've had like a certain dollar amount in my head, and then my company merged, and I got a raise, and at that time it was like a lot.
Like this company or your day job company?
My day job company.
Okay.
Like some years back, like I was like, oh my god, I'll be making much more money and all that. And this is like back when I was making like $14, $15 an hour.
Right.
And then so like I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna blah. And then now I make more. And that version of me was like, once I hit say X amount of dollars a year, all my problems are solved. And now I'm like at that same point. I'm like, well, I still feel poor. I just have a little bit more. I just have a mortgage now.
Yeah,
but but it's funny. Like I remember I'd always with a podcast too. Like if I could hit a certain number, or I could have a certain guest, or I could have a certain something. And we talk about this a lot. This is really perfect with what we do with our Let's Chat Club members is like we kind of grieve about this stuff too. It's like you have to learn to love the process. Like podcasting, like anything is all about like process is everything. Like you have to love it. And like, if you haven't, especially anyone right now listening to, if you're making any art or a podcast, like there's over 2 million podcasts. If you're making a show that gets like 10 downloads and you don't know those people, that's a fucking win.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like the metrics are so off of podcasting compared to other things. Guess the exception of like Joe Rogan or whatever, but even those numbers are not like Friends final season finale or whatever,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everything's spread so thin now. Yeah. And yeah, that's the network, quote unquote, podcast network that I'm on now, is a brand new. And so my producer has 2 other podcasts. And so, and he's trying to kind of start this network and we're trying to kind of feed off one another and stuff like that. But the metrics for like a paranormal improv show is completely different than the other ones. So we're like, it's kind of still the Wild West. Like it's being tamed now that every company has a podcast network for some reason, but, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm personally all for it. Like, I took a class through PRX over the last year and sometimes I find like my punk rock guilt gets in the way of stuff. And I think a lot of that held me back in the early years of my podcast and stuff like that, where like there are opportunities for some sponsorships. I'm like, no, this needs to be free and punk rock. And I don't want you to listen. I'm going to have bad sound. And like having like, it took like a lot of time, like self-work to get to a point and be like, I need to just be honest with myself. I'm like, I'm an indie podcaster who is very much like I always say like a band. I feel like I feel like I'm an indie band I'm Jawbreaker right now. And I really, really want that major money. Right. And I don't care if it ruins everything. And I've actually lost friendships over it. And like it definitely there became a separation of peers I had where people were like, oh, you're doing this for this and that. I'm like, I'm not doing it for this and that, but like I put a lot of time and energy into this. I think it's okay to be like, I want to be on a major label. I don't think there's anything wrong for a band being like, I want to be you too. We all can't be Fugazi.
Right. Exactly. And my last Hard Times article was literally like fan who won't buy bands merch or music, offended that they would put their music in a commercial. Like,
yes,
you want this entertainment, but there's costs to it. And like, I'd like to think I do have kind of a punk rock ethos to an effect. Like I've turned things down, like not huge things. Like, I mean, that's not the way, but I'm stubborn where I will work with the right people and I won't work with the wrong people. And I chose, like, I made that when I went to film school and I graduated from school and I made the conscious decision, like, I don't want to play that game. I hate networking. I hate like the sliminess of like, you do this favor for me, I'll do this favor for it's just not who I am. It's fine if you want to do that. And I've had many friends who are successful and do really good art because they play that game and that's their personality and that's fine. But like, I chose not to go to New York, LA. I chose to kind of really, I get burned out and I get bitter very quickly. And so I'm like, I could either work in the film industry as an assistant to an asshole and become jaded about the business that I love, or I can work a day job and be jaded about that business, which I am, and that's fine, and still do my passion and remain passionate about it because I do it my way. And as you can see behind me, I hate movies anyway, so it doesn't.
I know. I was gonna say, if people don't know, this is a closet that you're in.
Yeah, I'm in my film closet, so. And
you're married, so like the 18-year-old version of you would be like, you really can't have it all.
I married my high school sweetheart, so it's perfect. No, I would say at least 50% of these movies are heard, and that's actually how it started. Is because we didn't really start dating till college, but we both showed up with movie collections, VHS collections, but we both collected movies, and then so we just kept collecting because we already had a collection, and so yeah.
So you stay together for the movies at this point?
Like, God, if we had to separate these between it, I no, it's just easier to stay married.
I just feel like there's cut to like a divorce, be like, I've seen so many people with children come through here, and this is somehow harder. Like just you two like screaming over like a copy of like Howard the Duck or like something terrible.
We've actually had people come to our house and ask how many children we have, and we're like, yeah, we don't. This is just us. We are the children.
We are the children. We're happy.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I wish more people. Like I have a daughter, and I love her very much, and I'm very glad as a choice I made and very happy about. But
this is being recorded. Make sure you're careful.
Okay, I love people listening. No, I love her very much. Right. We worked very hard to get her here, but like I wish more people didn't have kids. And I wish more people like were nice to people who don't have kids. Like I have so much respect for people without children. Like, good. Don't have them if you don't want them.
Yeah.
Like, I 100% support that. I don't understand people who get like weird about it. It makes me like angry to no end. I'm like, what are you arguing with these people for?
Never, I mean, other than like random strangers, not random, but like random people at a party being like, oh, you'll change your mind. Like other than that, we've never, like both of our families have been like just... I don't want to say supportive. They literally just didn't care that we weren't like, we decided not to, we're not going to, but I actually had a Zoom birthday with some high school friends a couple of weeks ago. And my wife was friends with them. We were all kind of part of the theater group there, but it was people, and we ran the gamut from some of us were still single, and to somebody had a kid in high school. Like, it was just crazy.
That's awesome.
We're married without kids. There was still somebody who was single, happily single, who didn't like, and then another couple who's almost 40 and having their first baby. Like,
aww.
Yeah,
hard.
That's what they decided to do. Like they didn't try for 10 years. Like they just decided at 40 that it was time. And
that's awesome.
So yeah, we're in a really lucky period in human evolution where we're not forced to start a family. We don't need a family to run the farm anymore.
That's true. No, I know it's incredible. And even like having kids at 40, it's like that did not happen very frequently 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still high risk and all that stuff, but it's still like, it's a whole, I mean, we did IVF. So like we're living in an era where like, we just would never have naturally had a child if it wasn't for science.
That's fantastic. I worked, my day job is in law, but previous to the current position that I have, I worked in reproductive technology and adoption law. And it was I hate the legal field too, but it was the most rewarding of the legal field I've ever worked in. And I would probably go back to it if I could, because I got laid off because of the firm or whatever changed. But normally I would go back to it. It was really rewarding. We did adoptions. We did in Georgia, we did like same-sex parentage things with reproductive technology and the legal issues with that. It was really fascinating and really rewarding.
You are the most interesting person I know.
No, I'm really boring. I'm super boring. Like,
yeah, it's true. We're all boring.
Yeah. Oh, not everybody, but
well, yeah, and not some. Yeah, I don't know. Even people I think are super interested, and then I get to meet them and then talk long enough. I'm like, you're just like me. Well, I found people that are healthy are surrounded by family members who don't care about their fame or success or whatever the reason you're talking to them for is. Like anyone I've ever gotten to I've got to interview at some status that I was like, oh my God. Like I remember like talking with Benny Horowitz from the Gaslight Anthem, and his wife like just didn't give two craps about anything that he did. And I'm like, but that's healthy. You know what I mean? You need that.
My wife is insanely supportive, but yeah, isn't. Not that I'm successful or anything, but
she's not reading. She's not listening to your podcast. Well, I mean, my wife's not listening to mine.
She actually does. I'm one of those people who I don't want the people that I know. I get really self-conscious when the people I know and love care about what I do. I get really uncomfortable. Like I'd rather strangers. I think that's what people have said. Would you rather like be naked in front of your family or a Super Bowl or 50,000 people you don't know? And I'd like
50,000 people don't know.
People. Yeah, exactly.
That's done and over with.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Oh my God, I can totally relate to that. I mean, how has been the reception to this podcast? Like, I feel like it's once it finds its home, like people once they find the niche, it's gonna take off because it's really funny.
Oh, I thought you meant your podcast. No.
Well, mine's we're okay, but
we're doing better. Luckily, a friend of mine from college, who has an improv group with in college, he actually hosts a podcast called Hysteria 51, which is more of a talk show podcast.
I've heard of that show.
Yeah, they but
I'm
they
looking
do
that
they
one.
like it's similar. They do like a topic, like they'll talk about like an alien abduction case or something, and then but they're funny, and so they spin it in a funny way and things like that. And so I guested on their podcast, and because of that, I now have a pretty good number of downloads from the paranormal community every month because of that. So I'm
That's
trying to
pretty
kind of
great.
run in the paranormal circles because that it seemed to be better. There's so many comedy podcasts, but not as many paranormal ones, especially comedy. Like there's really no improv comedy paranormal podcasts out there, which is why I chose to do this one because I really wanted something that nobody had done yet, which is really hard to find in the podcast world.
Yeah, I just we interviewed them, and I'm going to be doing their show called the Jock Doc Podcast, and it's kind of like a medical podcast meets Comedy Bang Bang. So
Oh,
I kind of
nice.
loving.
Yeah.
I actually invited them on tonight, but they were recording, so they couldn't make it. But I'm just loving that there's so many like weird niche left like things.
Mhm.
Comedy Bang Bang. Like I'm so happy to hear things like that, and like that's so wonderful. So how is the paranormal community? Because I have to say that I probably judge it inappropriately, and that's probably because my own fear of ghosts.
Okay, it's the same as the punk rock community. I would say very specific. They take themselves like there's certain ones that take themselves too seriously, but then there's also the niche that exactly like what the Hard Times hit, where there is a niche that definitely like to make fun of it and like how ludicrous it can be at times. And so that's really who I'm trying to hit. And so it's very much like the punk rock community. There's a lot of gatekeepers, but at the same time, there's a lot of really just great people who are just what they're interested in, and it's a lot of fun.
With all the stuff coming out with like aliens basically being real, and like, is that like lighting up your community, finding more and more people coming your way, or like your into the paranormal community?
I think it's finding a lot of actually jerks coming in, not jerks, but like people coming in to prove it all wrong. Like there's a lot of know-it-alls coming in and who probably weren't there in the first, weren't really fans in the first place. Really, like I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, and that's kind of happening in the Doctor Who fandom right now. Is there's a lot of people who weren't really fans that are just upset about where the show has gone, and that's kind of where they're just coming in to be assholes, and it ebbs and flows. It goes up, and then once it quiets down, it goes kind of goes back to normal. I think I'm not too involved in a lot because and that's especially what I'm trying not to do with the Extramundane is I'm trying not to get too political. I'm actually not being political at all because there's a very thin line between the paranormal where you start getting into conspiracy theories, and we're making fun of that too, but then it starts getting into Q and right and left, and I really wanted this to be like just a fun, silly podcast to listen to during quarantine, and while we're going, like, I don't want to bring up the bullshit of what's going on in the world anymore. So I wanted to be silly, and so that's what I'm pushing.
What same with punk rock too. There's like a sect of like punk rock dudes who went so far left they went real right.
Yeah, it's weird. It circled back around on
Like,
itself.
I look. There's some people I know, like Jello Barafo is like not.
He's still very left. Jello's
Didn't
still
he say
very
some
left.
pro-Trump stuff recently?
I think he was just trying to get a rise out of people. Morrissey went really right. I think Johnny Rotten. I think he was just trying to get a rise out of people too, but he claims to be right. Yeah.
But what member there was that festival in New York City during COVID, and who played? One of them had like a Black Flag Matter shirt. I think they were trying to be funny.
That's what Black. I don't remember now because I know like Dead Kennedys exist still, but without Jello, and they're really right now, which is really weird. And he's like, what the fuck is this? Is absolutely the opposite of what Dead Kennedys is now. But yeah, so they kind of I had this weird epiphany the other day, and since we're just talking, I'm gonna just put it out there. But I had this weird thing where I felt so hopeless in the world about making change. I just got so kind of empty about like, well, like all this crap is going on, and I'm like, I need to protect my own. And I had this weird like, oh shit, like that's how it happens. Like, because you had this like, I need to protect the people that I love because I can't change the world around me. And I'm like, oh, I need to stop that thinking right now.
Yep.
Because that's where it gets like, that's when you start pulling in on yourself and you start thinking you're more important than everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And So anyway,
I think it's a lot of the stuff is just pulled like our like punk too. It just kind of attracts some people who are more like extreme personality types. So whether they found punk rock or metal or like baseball, they were going to go full hard into everything. And like, trauma's trauma's a real thing. So I think everyone feels that stuff. I don't know. I'm thinking of people I know specifically from my life who went like some super liberal to like MAGA. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's what happens if you don't ever like stop and think and self-preserve and take a weekend off and like it's uncomfortable, to be quite honest. It's it's weird. It is weird.
It's funny because like I consider myself sort of more of a metalhead than a punk, at least just my music taste and stuff like that. But I can absolutely see metalheads being like racist, like right. Like punks kind of surprise me because I know like anti-government and limited government can kind of go like in the right can kind of work together, but metalheads, it's like it's the music of privileged white men who have absolutely nothing to complain about. Like I understand that metal's ridiculous and so I can see why that happens, but punk doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why they would just turn so far right. But
I don't know. It was who's the singer from the Misfit, Michael Graves? Is that one?
Yeah, Graves.
Not Danzig, the other one. He's like a Proud Boy.
Is he real? I actually I didn't realize that.
It was like he was at the Capitol insurrection, not in the building, but he was there that day. But someone wrote an article about it and how it was like, well, the Misfits were more of a metal band that just played punk. Like it was like a lot of racism within metal. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's
I guess ultimately it's just racism.
Sebastian Bach from Skid Row really left. Like he came out really anti-Trump during this election recently, and I was shocked. Like not shocked. I mean, because hair metal, especially like you got Mustaine and stuff like that, they tend to be really right. And he came out hard and lost a lot of fans.
Have you ever seen Trailer Park Boys?
Just bits and pieces.
He's on some of the episodes.
Is he really?
There's a whole storyline in the later seasons where they are like going to see Rush, but they have to sell a bunch of weed by making a toy train to get the cannabis over the Canadian border to America. And at some reason, there's like a thing of Sebastian Bach, and he just basically explains of like, Ricky and Julian seem like weird guys, but it's the way they treat that. But like, they basically like break the fourth wall and be like, and then I'm Johnny Come Lately to Gilmore Girls, and I had no idea he was in that.
I didn't either. I didn't know. I don't know anything about that show, but I didn't realize.
Surprisingly good.
That's what I've heard. I mean, you'll look at movies in this closet and see that I don't judge anybody by their taste. I want Gilmore, like that's. I just never came across it.
I realized I never watched it because I misremembered a Mad TV sketch about it. So I always in my head. And then I got obsessed with
that. That happens to me too.
Yeah, and I told that to somebody like, "What's Mad TV?" And they're like, "Oh, I found the one person who like Mad TV and In Living Color mean more to me than SNL ever will." And then
wow,
yeah, like I grew up on Mad TV and In Living Color.
I remember Mad TV early days when it was still like part of Mad Magazine. That's kind of
and
then I think it was canceled and then it came back.
Yeah,
I never watched it when it came back, but yeah, I loved In Living Color.
Obsessed with it, and Phil Lamar, everyone was fucking dope on that. But yeah, no, it's just it's so. I didn't know he was an actor, and he's like a good actor. Oh, so my wife is not like from our music world, but she loved Gilmore, and I'm like, oh my god, Sebastian Bach. She's like, oh, who is that? And like, she didn't know he was a musician. She knew him as an actor. Another
friend of mine's doing a rewatch for him of Gilmore Girls and talking about how great it is. I might have to give that one a shot.
So, did you watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
I did not. I'm so far behind on everything.
Yeah, so I watched that, which I would recommend that first because it's about comedy, and like the stand-up is really good. And then I loved it, and my wife's like, oh, it's by the same people who made the Gilmore Girls. So eventually,
I didn't realize that.
So I would recommend Miss Maisel if anything, because it's like about. Like, I actually love what they do. They make like a really heightened, stylized version of New York City in the 50s, but they use real places. It's like a woman, very wealthy woman. It's got it all. Husband cheats on her, leaves, gets drunk, and she walks into the gaslight and unintentionally becomes a stand-up. She ends up she gets on stage, pissed drunk, gets arrested for obscenity because she flashes the crowd, ends up in jail with Lenny Bruce, and
wow.
Midge is Alex Borstein from Mad TV.
Oh, no way.
And then she becomes like her manager, like this. But they play at the real club called the Gaslight, and like Lenny Bruce is a character in it. So like it's all fictionalized stuff, but with like kind of woven some real life storylines within it. But the stand up is like it's really good.
Wow.
Like it's hard to do stand up on television. Like it's really hard.
Yeah.
Just for that, I think it's totally like just for the pure comedy level. And if you're a film person too, like the Dan and Amy Sherman Palladino, they will never let a camera sit still. So now they got the Amazon money. Like every episode looks like a movie.
You're losing. I hate camera movement. I got film theory for days, but I hate.
Take it all back. You're gonna hate it.
No, Steven Spielberg destroyed cinematography with his moving camera like theory that every shot should be moving, and I think a camera should move only when it needs to be, and a moving camera makes you realize you're watching something. Sometimes it doesn't if you do it right, but yeah. I got film theory for days, but yeah, I really hate constantly moving cameras. I think it's okay to move a camera, but not every.
I love your rage.
Oh my god, I'm a white male who likes movies. Of course, I have rage about movies.
And you like metal.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, you seem
so much unnecessary rage within me.
Yeah, but you seem like such a calm, nice person.
Well, thank you. You do too. No, that's the thing is I am over dramatic about stupid things for fun. I'm typically pretty
hardcore shows were like this way to get rid of that rage. I don't know, rage, but like a side of masculinity I didn't explore anywhere else because it was like okay to just go jump through chairs and do stuff. Like at like shows. Actually, truth to be told, I actually hate hardcore. I don't like the culture. It's just the scene I grew up in was like got meshed into one, and then hardcore it's Connecticut. It's Central Connecticut, post Hatebreed. So like
okay,
yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Christian punk, so I don't even like. I went to regular punk shows occasionally.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Christian punk guy.
I have a weird, sporadic like music memory and things like that. So yeah, that's
what Stretch Armstrong, Tooth and Nail.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, Tooth and Nail.
I love Stretch Armstrong so much. I
actually forgot about them until just now. Wow.
Yeah, Revolution Transmission is one of those records that changed my life in a way that like I think it's because me and my 10 friends found it and had no idea they were Christian. Right, but they do a Counting Crows cover, so you can't not love them.
Yeah, I actually just found a Facebook group that's like 90s Christian rock nostalgia or something like that. And I'm like, oh my God. And I joined it. It's really interesting. It's a lot of memories I had completely forgotten about, but like very tongue in cheek. I mean, it's taking a, but one of the, I don't know if you remember DC Talk, if you know anything about Christian rock, they were the biggest rap rock kind of
DC Talk.
Decent Christian Talk was what DC Talk, but it was three guys. I want to say one black guy, two white guys that kind of rapped and rocked, but one of them's very left now, like socialist left, and angering a lot of people with his politics because of that.
Now that makes me even happier. Hey, Facebook user. I think you just have to give StreamYard permission, but thanks for watching, whoever you are. Oh, someone remember who are you?
That Facebook user remembers DC Talk.
Please tell us who you are, Facebook user. Is that Seaball? Or maybe Chad? We got some nice people coming through here. It is Seaball. Oh man. I meant to totally text him to invite him on here.
Seaball's back in town.
Yeah, he's one of our producers. We love Seaball. I totally forgot to text him. Like, hey, come on tonight. Sorry, Seaball. Busy day at work. And hot take. Hence why I had to get a producer, because every episode of Let's Chat before Bree was literally just like getting a football over the line of whatever sports people do. Because like my organizational skills were not that great. Like I was a big edit, do everything Sunday night and post it for Monday morning, even though I had a full week.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, shout out to Will Forster. We love Will. He's he worked with us for a little while, and he did some of my favorite Let's Chat art of like all the Super Nintendo stuff that I've been posting all around Providence.
Oh yeah.
And then, oh my God, look at all these son of a bitch. I assume I don't know who you are, but thank you to all these nice people. Oh my god, you're making us
Wonderful.
finally validating us. Yeah. But oh my god. So it feels like the Christian rock is really hitting. So is it so when you're from hold on, I'm gonna pull this out of my memory bank. You live in Georgia, you're not from
Right.
Georgia, Illinois.
There you go. Yes.
I literally did to myself, I went, Fall Out Boy's from there. I was trying to remember because I don't listen to my episodes after I edit them, and now that I'm able to make enough money off of this to not edit, I don't edit anymore because time. I can do it. I'm good at it. It takes so much time.
Yeah. I'm editing my own podcast now, so I completely understand.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I don't do a very good job of it.
It sounds great, but editing is...
the producer does it. I do like a first... he does the fine cut. I do like a rough cut. And really, it's mostly just taking out gaps. And like when we really stumble, I'll cut that. But I really don't cut much.
Yeah, it's a good skill to learn. And if you ever want to like leave your job, just become an editor. Because oh my god, they make like I think they start at like $55 an hour.
Oh wow!
And like, but then I also know it goes into editing, so I can see why it costs that much. Because it's
good
really
editors
hard.
are definitely worth it.
Yeah, unsung heroes are the production.
Yeah.
Like how what do you use? What's your host site? Are you doing? I saw Podbean.
Podbean, yeah. That's what. Like I said, that we have a producer who's putting together a network, so his network is on there as we're kind of slowly building, and then hopefully move to our own sort of net one. But starting small, which I think is the right choice.
Oh, with paranormal podcast were a lot of work. The paranormal kind of concept exists me still free. Yeah, Will's a big paranormal guy.
Oh, you'll love it, Will. Then
yeah. Will, Will, you're gonna love this podcast. Oh my god, yeah. This is kind of, as I'm thinking, like this is made for Will. If we just start talking Star Wars, we may never lose. We may have Will all night.
I'm a Star Trek guy. I'm not a huge I like Star Wars.
Yeah, but, I'm neither. So I like Star Wars more than Trek. But
okay, my wife's a huge Star Wars. We always say my wife's a Star Wars fan. I'm a Star Trek fan, and we meet in the middle at Doctor Who. It's a weird.
I love that.
Kind of makes sense right there.
Hard Times had a great article, or I don't know when it's released because the way the algorithm has been changing stuff. It's whatever. But they had the other day I saw a Hard Times article. It was like Star Wars fan meets another. Star Wars fan meets mortal enemy. Another Star Wars fan.
Oh right.
Kopala. I don't know what that means.
It's Klingon.
Oh.
I'm not 100% sure. I think it means hello or.
What if it means like F you? MAGA 2020 in Klingon? Oh my god, that's too great. So like have you been enjoying like harassing your friends to come on yet? Like it's I felt I look back and I was like, I was way too comfortable asking some of the people I asked on it originally were like I would never like my father-in-law was our first guest. I'm like, why did I do that? I would never do that now.
I'm asking less people who are my friends and more people I know are really skilled at improv. We have a great improv house down here in Atlanta called Dad's Garage. If you know Archer at all, they're not on the show, but Krieger and the office manager.
Yes, because I've listened to interviews with them and they talk about that.
Yeah. So they're like the founding members of Dad's Garage, everybody in that house is funny, and so I've been reaching out a lot to them and using a lot of their talent because I said my improv chops are still pretty dry from when I haven't done improv for a long time, and so I'm calling on a lot of people who I know are really talented to see if they did, and they've been really generous, and I've gotten a lot of great people. So
you're telling me that you have a connection to the person who is the genetic clone to Adolf Hitler?
Exactly.
Anyone listening, that's a joke from the television show Archer.
And they're those two people are it's funny, they're kind of really well protected by the rest. Like they're just local Atlanta folk. Like they're really not. And so I don't want to reach out to them and just be like, hey, I kind of like I'm. And like I said, the rest of the troupe is really funny as well.
Yeah.
So
I think especially you're starting small, like the bigger the name is, like don't bother someone until you like. There's like I have like this weird hierarchy in my own head, which believe, which I'm hopefully going to be teaching soon. But I guess the proposal. But in my head, it's like I feel like if you've got a podcast and you're doing like the industry standard is nobody touches you till you do 20 episodes, like anyone of worth. Like, so don't ask anyone on until you hit like anyone of worth. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Yeah, I think because most of them, most podcasts just end because why not? Because they're a lot of work and nobody listens, and there's 2 million of them. So like. We're starting one now, and the one that we're working on now, the Selling Jones, the 929, we're like talking about guests and stuff. So of course, I'm sure you did the same thing. You sit down and you get to make your blue sky list of all the people like one day you want to have on.
Right.
So I'm like Dave Chappelle, Ava DuVernay, and like writing all these names down that we want to try to get on because we have George Floyd's name, which has a lot more reach than mine, But I was like talking to the crew about it. I was like, all right, we got to do like at least 20 episodes before we bother Chappelle's people.
Right.
But then I kind of had this like moment where I froze. I'm like, oh my God, where can I actually call Chappelle's people? Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you have this too. Maybe with writing,
it's weird. I will reach out if it's somebody I don't ever think I'll meet socially. I don't care. I reached out to like not like huge people because I know I'll just never hear from them. Like I'm not even gonna bother waste my time. But if it's somebody like a person who does characters on Twitter, like the first guy the pilot that I wrote that I reached out to was Chris Calligaro, who does a lot of characters on Twitter and has a really big following. And I reached out to him.
Hilarious.
I sort of knew him through other like Hard Time NYC comedians or something. And so we followed each other on Twitter, but I asked him if he would help me to do the pilot. And because I'm like, this guy has solid chops, so I want to feed off of that. And he said yes. And so he was the first, like he was awesome. Amazing. But like I said, like there's the people who like the Archer voices. I could end up like I actually could go to a party and they could be there. And I don't want to be that guy who's like, I don't want to be that guy. So actually if it comes down to like where I may interact with them socially, I am not going to bother them.
You can give my email.
If I never meet this comedian from NYC, I don't care if they think I'm annoying by reaching out to them on Twitter. Like,
I get that.
Yeah,
I totally get that. And then I went the other way with it and was like, let me get the biggest person I can find.
Yeah, I have like a plan and like, but like, so yeah, that went nowhere. I recorded an episode tonight, so my brain is really scattered.
That's too funny.
So.
Do you find yourself finding yourself having like a level of confidence within your writing or the podcast that you don't have in other aspects of life? Like I could host this podcast, doesn't bother me at all. But then like going to get coffee by myself will give me like anxiety.
Really? No, I mean I have anxiety issues. Like I have massive anxiety issues.
Same. I'm a huge fan of meds.
It is really hit and miss when I'm weirdly confident in certain aspects. My writing is not one of them. But
that's surprising.
I'm terrified of that. But yeah, I'm weirdly confident in other things. I can't think of an example right now because I guess I'm not very confident in certain things.
Well, not to make a comedy paranormal podcast.
Well, like I'm trying to think of something I'm weirdly confident about. I don't have trouble like going to get coffee, like interactions with strangers. I can interact with strangers perfectly fine, but like one-on-one, which is actually why it's weird that I'm doing okay with you. And maybe because we have I
think we know each other too.
And we are close friends. But if I have a really hard time one-on-one with people, especially people I don't know. Like when I do the podcast, if it's a comedian I don't know socially, where they just come on, I'm like before we hit record, I'm like, so how are you doing? Like, yeah, I'm dead. Like I have no confidence in myself, but I have confidence in the show. And so I know the product we're about to make is good. And so I can kind of trick myself that way. And that's one thing somebody told me, is even though I like, cause I'm playing Max Ward, even though he's not a character, he's basically me. He's just a more gullible me. I have to be like, no, you're Max right now. And that will give me the confidence to kind of do that and be able to perform that way. Cause I've always been able to do theater. I'm not a good actor, but I can do it. I'm not terrified I don't have stage fright, but if I had to get on stage and talk as myself, I have a lot harder of a time. Like, I don't know. Are you familiar with the Moth storytelling company?
Yeah, it's like my dream to do one of those.
Oh,
But
well,
like terrified. I've
so,
never taken a single step towards it. Like
oh, you got to do it.
I'm
It's so much.
I'm actually doing my very first speaking thing. There's a thing called Pakakachu. I always say it wrong. It's Japanese.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
Pachakacha is how it's pronounced. It's a global thing. It started
Oh,
in Tokyo, and it's like 20 pictures for 20 seconds, and you get up, you tell a story with like 20 pictures. But the
oh,
one in
really?
Providence is the second one that's longest running in America. And I got invited to do one during the pandemic, and I was way too afraid. And I'm
Wow.
going to be doing one this month. And can I actually? You're a comedy guy. Can I pitch you my idea?
Absolutely.
And my wife is on board with it, so I think it's cool. So like the idea is you get up there and you just and I already went to one, so I know the crowd. I'm like, I think this could work.
Mhm.
At first, I was like, I'm going to do a story about like my daughter's birth and that led to my PTSD and my wife almost dying, and then I went to the event. And I was like, nope, I do not want to cry in front of anyone.
Right.
This is a much sillier thing. Like some people were like dressed up like a fish, and they told a story about when Onlyville and Providence flooded in 1875. So I'm so glad that you're here for this because I'm really playing with it. So I had this idea what I wanted to do is get up there and I found my 20 pictures and talk about how like once in a lifetime we get a great piece of art. And then, with our greatest like Zeppelin or I don't know, maybe that's not like Nirvana's the band of a generation, like have it like be very,
Right.
very
Yeah.
serious. And then I wanted it to be about the tag team commercial, Scoop Where It Is. But like
Yes, you have
completely
to.
serious.
Literally
Yeah.
last night, the next one came on with like the world's strongest man. And I'm like, do they really think they can give us this after Scoop? There it is. Like, it really was a moment in history. Absolutely. You got to do that.
And cut to like the next slide, be like in 1975, Derek L.F. and some of the created and do like and just do it. And of course, my wife is like, at the end, you have to go Scoop. There it is, and throw sprinkles in the air.
Yes, you got to do that.
I'm gonna
That's
put it.
fantastic.
I got 2 people who said yes, and like, because I went to go watch it, I was like, man, I want to go like full Birbiglia. Like, I don't think I could be a stand-up, but I think I could tell a story. I think I could do like a Kevin Smith, Mike Birbiglia thing where I could tell a story with jokes, but I don't think I could write an act. And I don't even want to do that. I was just like, I just love that. I'm actually, but the thing is, like, it is genuinely coming from my heart. I love that commercial to the, I don't know why. I watch it on YouTube for fun sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I have too. Absolutely. Completely.
And I'm a huge Girl Talk fan, and he samples tag team. So like because of that I know all that whole tag team. It's like tag team back again, pick it up. So like I can do the whole song, and I was like, oh my god, yeah. All right, this is all right. Now this is. I think it's gonna have to happen. When
I was listening to the Moth podcast, and then I was still living in Chicago, and I reached out to them, and I said, this is when I used to do video work. Like I used to videotape weddings and live events and things like that. And so I reached out to them and I said, hey, if you ever come to Chicago, I want to be a part of the Moth, whatever it is you got to come to Chicago. And they ended up coming, and I was their video guy for the longest time, for years. And then I only performed twice. One night I did because nobody else was signing up. And so I did it. And then literally the night before I moved to Atlanta, I did it because I was always just too afraid to do it. Like I was just terrified to do it. And so the night before I moved to Atlanta, I did it, and I won that night. And so like because the Moth does smaller like story slams, so they're in like a smaller bar and they vote, and if you win, you get to come back for the Grand Slam. And so I won that night, telling a story about how I was hired to write a screenplay, and it was like off the cuff. Like I wasn't planning on going up that night, but my friends were there. And like a friend of mine who actually does the ad, like every episode of The Extramundane has a fake ad.
I love that.
My friend does it, and his voice is perfect for radio. And so he does the intro and the ad. And but anyway, I met him through the Moth, and he doesn't like he can tell a story. Like there's people who can live amazing lives, like the craziest life you've ever heard, and can't tell the story of it for it's interesting. Then there's people who can just go check the mail and tell you. You'd be enthralled at the way that they tell the story. He's one of those guys who can just tell a story out of nowhere. I'm somewhere in like the middle, but anyway. So yeah, I won, moved to Atlanta, came back for the Grand Slam, and this was my like why I'll never do stand-up comedy, because I got up to tell my story. I worked my ass off in this story and bombed, just completely bombed. And I'm like, oh, this is the worst feeling in the entire world. So like, I bombed within the first couple minutes, and I'm like, oh, you got 5 more minutes of this story, like that you people have to suffer through.
Oh,
I also think it was the wrong crowd, but I won't just blame them. But yeah, so it's rough to really have to be yourself and tell a story.
I think I have like a list of like different hosting goals, but like I think doing off is like that's because like it's one of the things that got me into podcasts too. Like I used to have a job where I traveled a ton, and I didn't have a phone jack or anything, so we would just listen to NPR I worked Saturday, so I would do Moth, Radio Lab. It was like every Saturday, and like at least 4 to 5 hours driving at least, and I would just do like This American Life, Radio Lab, and the Moth back to back to back, and those were like my first 3 like getting into like which would then become podcasts. Is that like, I mean, they might have already been podcasts, but like that was like one of the things that really dove me into that world. But yeah, like, and the Moth is wonderful. Sometimes you laugh, sometimes you cry. Like,
yeah,
I guess I know it's coming around here. I think this, especially because of COVID now, like everything comes back. I'm like, gotta tame myself. I'm like, I want to do everything.
I think the Moth is in Atlanta now too, but I haven't.
They're in Boston. They come around. I would love to just go to one, but I think you have to. Oh man, God, that would be so cool to like get to do. I can't believe you got to win one. That is like fucking nuts.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was.
I would love to be one of those people, but my stories are more like, I do laugh at myself because I remember like having to give a presentation my senior year of college and literally like having to like leave the room and stand outside and shake for 10 minutes because I was terrified to talk in front of my class of 12 people. And now I'm in my 30s. I'm like, for fun, I'm going to sign up to go do public speaking.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get out of my own head right now. I think that's really going to help, which is why I'm trying to do improv again and things like that. I'm really living, like writing, you really live in your own head, and I need to kind and that's what I'm trying to do again.
Improv is just mindfulness. It's just like it's for the person who doesn't want to be mindful, who doesn't want to be like woo-woo world or Buddhist. It's just that's what it is. Have you seen Don't Think Twice?
I have. Yeah, I actually almost brought it up a couple of minutes ago. I forgot where you, but yeah, I've seen that one.
It's one of my favorite movies. When I talked to Gethard, we were talking about that a little off mic. Like, I was like, well, there's a lot to cover, so let's make it about me. And like the 3 things that I wanted to one of the things I wanted to talk about was Don't Think Twice, because it is legitimately one of my favorite movies. Like, I just love that movie so much.
That was a good one. Because I was gonna say I didn't want to be like, when I was saying I chose not to have a day job, I chose not to like play the game or whatever. I didn't want to be the Birbiglia character at 40 and sleeping on still sleeping on a futon and like that weird so. And
that would have been me. Like I know myself. I totally know what you mean. And and he was so genuinely kind with his time. He was telling me that he got a writing credit because Birbiglia just mined him for stories on tour so often that's like a lot of that stuff was stuff that like came from him. Some of it was stuff that came from his actual life. And it's funny, and I know about guest booking, which is the strangest thing. Sometimes you put a lot of work in, you can land a big get, and then sometimes you're in a Facebook group dedicated to New Jersey pop punk, and someone like Chris Gethard just happens to be in it. So that's the funniest thing about guest booking is like sometimes you try really hard, like I do everything I can and nothing, and then sometimes I'm like, seriously, what?
Wow.
So the truth is though, I had known he was in the group for a very long time, and I was very respectful and didn't ever bother him. But and then I saw him post about the New Jersey podcast he was doing, so I like commented, and I'm assuming he had some recognition. But I think you'll find that too when you're booking guests. It is so weird how like sometimes you try really hard and nothing comes out of it, and then sometimes stuff literally will just land in your lap. But like I think like I always think of guest booking, like if I can get this person on, that means anyone at that level could. I don't know. In my head, I'm like,
it does. It gives it because having Chris Calligaro come on really did help me when I reached out to people who know his work.
Exactly.
It does lend some cred to it because I mean they don't know if I'm, and especially at that point, I only have 3 episodes out now because we're doing every other week. I told them I've recorded 7 already, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is what's been put out. So
no, it's true.
You need people to vouch for you because I feel bad saying that you like. but you do at times. And that
do you drop the hard times thing a lot in there, like when you put your name, like, because that
it
would
depends.
be your...
Yeah, typically. Yeah, I almost always.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
But I have like a quick bio. Like I write for the Hard Times. I wrote a book. Blah blah blah. Like I have this podcast. Like I try not to drop names, unless I actually what I'm doing now is sort of playing grapevine. Every guest I have on, and I feel like such scum doing it, but every guest I have on, I ask if they can recommend somebody for me to reach out to.
That's
just
exactly.
one person. I say, if you don't want me to mention your name, I won't. But all I'm looking for is good comedians, and if there's somebody,
yeah,
you think, that, and I'm not asking for famous people. I'm just asking for who do you think is really talented, and it's worked every single time that I've done it. The person they recommended said yes, even if I didn't name drop them. They said yes. And have also been wonderful guests. So it really works.
Yeah. The podcast community is one of the sweetest, kindest, warmest places on the internet. I feel so fortunate to get to overnight I became a legacy podcast is what what they call us in the industry.
I don't know what does that mean?
Means it just... that to me it means like you just should have quit and didn't. Because I started before the boom, before Marvel.
That's okay. Yeah.
In industry terms, God, I was just it feels sturdy saying this out loud, but I was doing this for something I'm trying to set up professionally. It was like it's a legacy. I'm a legacy podcast host and a micro influencer, which is the dirtiest of words, but like. But I guess this is what we were talking before. Like, I know I'll definitely wrap it up in a minute. But like in the beginning, the part about like believing yourself, there was a period where like someone would say that to me, and I'd feel dirty about it, and then nope, and I would just stop. And now I have to be like, I don't like that word, but I do want free products, and I do want people to listen to me, and I do want people's money. So like, but I had to really get out of my own head a lot, get out of my own way a lot to do that stuff. So it's. And I know you're in that same boat, so I love talking to people who've kind of gone through it, through it or going through it. It's weird. It's weird to like feel negative about positive things. It's like, oh my God, you did a great thing. You should be happy. And you're like, no, not at all. I should feel dirty and ashamed.
You do something that kind of succeeds and you feel scummy about it because other people might have not or something. Like I posted a meme the other day, which is, I don't know why I'm explaining a meme in an audio format, but it was the Phantom Menace poster, the first Phantom Menace poster with Anakin with the shadow of Vader behind him. And it was on Anakin, I wrote, my friends being recognized for the art that they're making. And then behind on the Vader shadow, it says my intense and seething jealousy. Because like that really, like I have a lot of friends doing, like getting recognized for doing their art. They're not selling out. They're getting recognized for putting some amazing things out there. And I'm like trying so hard to not be insanely jealous. Like it's such a weird business. I hate this business so much.
I mean, literally got to be, I mean, like our mutual, I don't know, I would call my friend, my mutual internet acquaintance, Matt Sancom, and Bill Conway, like those guys, like you know, those dudes, and they literally became names and, financially stable overnight.
Yeah. I mean, and did it all the right way. Didn't step on anybody's neck to get there. I mean, really just right place, right time, and really just saw what the hole that was missing and with creating the Hard Times. Matt's really good at that. Matt's really good at seeing what's needed, and finding a way to fill that void. And
he lost me on Hard Money.
Yeah, but his podcast, I don't like Hard Money. I don't understand, but his podcast.
Neither, but it's perfect that it exists because we need people in finance who are funny. Yeah.
But his podcast where he's trying to make he's putting $10,000 of his own money and trying to make $1 million or lose it all is really fascinating. So
I haven't listened to too many of them, but I'm just I know that it is. But I remember too when they sold it, like reading interviews with him and Bill and being like, that's kind of like it was like, yeah. And my good friend Margie, who she's the co-owner of Interview Connections and hosts a podcast called We Get It, Your Dad Died. She runs a multi-million-dollar company, and she was talking to me like a podcast related business, and she's like, it's all about like your money mindset. I'm like, oh, and she's like, her whole philosophy, she's like, I want to make a lot of money so I can take that money and then go help sick animals. And I was like, we need more people who want to make a lot of money to then do good with it. So like my business partner Bree and I are like, we should make lot of money and then turn around and like pay our friends and pay people and like be livable. So we're gonna make a lot of, well, hopefully, but the goal is to make a lot of money and then do good things with it. Like, I want that Joe Rogan. I know I've gotten arguments with people, but like, oh, you would still have Joe Rogan on your podcast? I'm like, yeah, I would. I totally would. I wouldn't have Alex Jones on my podcast, but I would like.
Right. It's so weird.
I would absolutely take that Joe Rogan money. You kidding me? Like I'm begging Spotify to give. God, if someone even offered me like 10 grand right now, I'd be like, sure, take it. It's yours. Maybe I should add some zeros to that. But yeah, I know. I know I get guff for it, but I just want everyone to know my intentions early on that I want to sell out as soon as possible.
But you can be successful without selling out. Like there and
yeah.
Like
sponsored by Barbara Lights.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a fine line that I've never had to put myself in. Like I've turned things down before. Like I don't know if this was on mic or off mic that we were talking about this, but I've turned things down, but not huge things. I've turned small shitty things down because I didn't feel right about it. But
one of the coolest things, and I can wrap it up because it's it's almost 10, and I'm in my room. The room I'm in is so hot. We got approached. Someone wanted to come on the show, and it was like a flat earther podcast. But in their description, like, it has appeared on InfoWars, and Seaball and I were talking. We're like, I don't know, man, what do we do? And he's like, hold on. And he like writes back. He's like, do on the computer. He's like, due to our completely different ideological beliefs, no. And I was like, yeah, because there's a part of me that wanted to be like, I don't know, we should be giving everyone fair, but it's nice to have like a backbone sometimes to be like, you have to draw the line. And like, I know there's no money tied to it, but like, I know what you mean. Like I definitely have my standards, but I really, if Phil Morris wants to sponsor us, I'm okay with it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I feel like you should just let everyone know that you're willing to sell out to anything early on, and then they have to respect you. Well, yeah. Which obviously we're the farthest from that. Like I'm Dunkin', and I live in New England, and it was Dunkin' Donuts Day or some crap recently, and I bashed Dunkin' Donuts online. And I was like, I'm gonna get murdered for this, and I was surprised to see the fanfare. It was very much because I went to a local bakery. It's like on Dunkin' Day, I go here because Dunkin' Donuts is trash, and I was afraid to lose on my New England market.
I saw that post. Yeah, okay.
I was really proud of that. I was like, because this New England people get weird about Dunkin' because it is disgusting.
I didn't know that. Huh.
It's so gross. And then,
I know Dunkin's gross. I didn't know that people were passionate about it in New England.
Oh, it's people's identity.
Really?
Yeah, it's like gotta have my.
I ever knew about New England.
I know it's only in these 6 states. It doesn't exist anywhere else. The second you hit New York,
Chicago has a really big Dunkin' Donuts file. Like, they have a lot of them. They're very few in the South. But that's interesting. I didn't realize there were people passionate about it. Yeah,
the way in the South you don't grab soda, you drink a Coke.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
People will do that here. Oh, I gotta get a Dunkin', even if they're gonna go to like Starbucks. Or it's just like the vernacular. It's like, and it is so gross. But anyway, man, I always get it's always a wonderful get a chance to speak with you.
Thanks for having me on again. I'd come on whenever. I love talking to you about just
whatever. No, I was gonna say like, well, we're gonna do something again. We have a whole other arm where we do like round tables and fun stuff with that. We're always wanting to put more energy into, but never enough time in the day.
I got angry white guy opinions, so don't worry.
I'm always looking for co-hosts too. Yeah. But where can people find you and the show online?
You can find me at Dan Kozuh, Kozuh on Instagram and Twitter. Extramundane, you can we have if you look for the Extramundane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's there. If you're looking to subscribe, it's on all the major platforms. If you search the word Extramundane, nothing else is going to come up. So
yeah, and I'm looking at your stuff. Yeah, you got some followers, and you're doing. I'm gonna put a little banner there for people to find it.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah,
yeah. So people, check this out. Anyone still watching? Thank you so much, and find me on @Let's Chat Podcast and all the things. Make sure you check out our podcast, Let's Chat with Chris Revel, where you'll be starting to find these audio versions, and then those are going to end up on our Patreon at Let's Chat Media. And have a good night, everyone.